Well, welcome everybody. This is Wayne Dean with 3D Training and the American Business Club, and welcome to our monthly podcast session of our sales club. Today's session is kind of unique. We've got a really good guest today, Ann Barron with Northern Colorado Community. So just today is as opposed to some of the sessions I do are usually a series of podcasts that have like PowerPoint and I follow through a sub training. Today is more just a conversation and discussion. As we go forward, I just want to tell most of the people that are viewing this on my YouTube channel. Again, the YouTube channel is Wayne Dean, DEHN. So you just do youtube.com/@Wayne Dean. And you can I have all the past podcasts are available on there. There's also a series of other trainings that I've done over the last 20 years. So you can actually watch me age. There's so many trainings on there. But today's session is specifically geared toward building professional relationships. And before I turn it over to Ann, I just want to say I've got one, I do accountability partnerships. I don't know if you people listening have an accountability partner, but I really feel strongly that one has to have accountability partner. And I think your accountability partner shouldn't be your spouse, shouldn't be somebody who's got authority over. It should just be somebody on equal status that can hold you accountable for the behavior that you want to do each week.
Right.
So my accountability partner and I, we talk on Wednesdays, and she is out in New York. She hates networking, but she's the cold call queen. She will get on the phone and can call somebody out of the blue and just try a conversation with somebody. So I hold her accountable for the behavior of go network. And then she holds me a behavior of, am I doing my cold calling for prospecting? But I always get a kick out of that. To me, networking is fun. I would rather go see somebody face to face than I would try and call somebody on the phone. So today is about how to build professional relationships, and Ann any way you want. So everybody give it up for Ann Barron. Welcome, Ann. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. So why don't you tell us more about yourself and your company?
All right, great. Well, thank you, first of all, Wayne, for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate it. So Northern Colorado Community, I founded it or started it over 8 years ago. And what it is a boutique networking group. And the goal is to see your business thrive and grow and be that resource to local business owners. And we do that through in-person networking. We do it through email connections, connecting you to the members that you want or the professionals you want to meet. And we also offer free consulting. We have a Facebook group. We do fun events and just really try to get you connected and see your business be successful.
Okay. And what's separate? One of the things I moved here a couple of years ago, I used to live in Louisville. And then when my wife wanted to be near family and was Wisconsin, so we moved back to Midwest. But then when the kids grew up, I decided I want to be back in Colorado.
Right.
And I came here, and one of the things I noticed the last 2 years is there's a lot of networking activities. Whether you join and pay for a BNI or US Referral Network or the Leads Group, what sets your group apart from other networking organizations?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and it's really a valid one. There is a lot of networking groups. And what I would say is that really the bottom line is the goal is that your business is growing in revenue, connections, referral partners, and probably what I call my secret sauce is that I do intentional email introductions, connecting you to other businesses, professionals, organizations you want to meet. And it may not be necessarily people who are members of the group. It could be a municipality, it could be a university, it could be a big company, like for instance, Madwire. So it is a lot of different folks that you get connected to that you want to meet. And we learn that through your new member meeting. We find out what are, who are folks that you want to get connected to and you want to get to know. And that is I feel like that's pretty unique. I probably have belonged to almost every paid networking group in Northern Colorado. And I would say that not once has someone from that networking group said, "Ann, I want to sit down. I want to do 10 email introductions, introducing you to other people you don't know yet." And that's an ongoing benefit. So that is one of the key things I think makes me stand out. And the other thing is that I really do care about the members. Each person, they're not a paying member or a number to me. That really is, they're a person and they're individual. So an example is the other day I went and visited one of my members who had major surgery, spent 2 hours over at her home, visiting with her, listening, being there for her. So those are things that when you're a huge networking group, or maybe that's not a main goal of yours, that is one of the things that is important to me, is that it's not just your business. It's like another person has a child, unfortunately, who just was diagnosed with cancer, and I sent them a thinking of you card, just a little hello, I'm thinking of you greeting card. So there's just a lot of what I call high touch things that I do with the member or for the members, and let them know that they're important and they're not just another number or just a membership to me.
I appreciate that. With
Yeah.
building professional relationships, most people think it's, well, go to a networking event.
Mhm.
Or, I gotta go to this after, we were just talking off air, how busy you are with all the other activities and stuff. Why do you think some people, well, let me back up. People who start their own business, or at least are working for somebody in their control of their own destiny and have to go out and, hunt and find their own leads and
Right.
problems. Why do you think those people hesitate to network?
Well, there's probably a couple factors. I'll use my husband as an example. He's an introvert, so he really doesn't want to meet people in person. He'd rather do it like a YouTube or a podcast interview where it's online. And then also sometimes maybe people feel like it's not really effective. And there are sometimes groups, and there's a lot of great networking groups. I always like to share that with folks. But sometimes people feel like it's not really an effective use of their time to grow their business. Maybe they want to do social media, paid social media marketing, or they want to do cold calling. So there's different ways that people feel like it's more effective for them. And it does take time, and really networking, as you know, Wayne, you really need to invest getting to know the people. Generally, it's not going to be a one and done. It's not like, okay, the first time I meet someone, they're going to become my client. Most of the time, that's not the case. So you just really need to invest that time and build up that relationship. And then if people want to, be a client, great. If they don't, then that's fine too. It's
Mhm.
it's all good.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when people say maybe it's not worth the time, or am I not getting out of it?
Right.
In my class that I do on network, and I say to people, one of the problems is somebody says, well, there's a networking event tonight, like this 5 o'clock we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then people walk in and everybody's already grouped up and talking, and I don't know anybody. And I walk by the tray and I see there's carrots and ranch dressing, and then they walk around the room and they have a conversation, and then they leave and say, well, at least I was there. And they didn't accomplish anything. So one of the tips I give people is be task oriented in networking as opposed to time conscious. What I mean by that, instead of saying, well, I got to go to this after hours thing from 5 to 7, hey, you get to leave when you either collect 5 business cards or give out 5 business cards, or whatever goal one sets for themselves. Be, as you said, more specific about your intent of what you're going to do. So I
Yeah.
think that's what holds people back. They don't have a systematic approach to network. So any tips do you have for people as far as a systematic approach? Well, first we'll talk about building professional relationships, networking at an event, and then social media wise. So what do you think are some steps that people should follow that maybe they're not, that you recommend they think about?
Yeah, very good question. So I'd say probably the first thing is when you're networking, like you said, Wayne, is have some goals ahead of time. It's not just you're hanging out for 1 or 2 hours, but generally goals that I have for myself is that I'm going to make 1 or 2 really good connections with folks. I'm not going to be trying to connect with everyone there. It's really impossible. And the thing is that you find out pretty quickly when you meet someone whether you're kind of what I'm calling, I don't want to say, I guess kind of connecting is probably a better word. I was going to say vibe, but if you're connecting with that person, if they seem like they're interested in talking with you, you are interested in what their business or organization is. And then if if they offer a business card or you offer to them, that's fine. And I actually try to kind of leave a little bit of an idea, such as, I'll probably contact you later and let's, meet for coffee or do a phone call. So they're not surprised if I'm contacting them later on and trying to meet for coffee or schedule a phone call. But also I try to let folks know about upcoming events. But generally, if I have one or two people that I feel like, okay, this is someone I would enjoy getting to meet and get to know them better at a coffee meeting, then that's great. That's enough for me. You're not going to have 20 follow-ups. That's impossible. But the other thing is too, just someone that you enjoy getting to know as a person. It doesn't always have to mean that you're going to have a client or they're going to become a client, but you just go, that person's really fun, or I really seem to have other interests in common with them. So some of it is kind of a little personality, I guess, because we have so little time in this life, and you want to be hanging out with people that you enjoy getting along with and seeing, whether at networking events or even if you're going to meet with them for a coffee for an hour. So that's some couple of the factors that I look at.
Okay. So one of the things I've talked to people at networking events, some of the paid networking events, like a BNI or this, I've had people say, oh, I didn't renew because I didn't get anything out of it. I didn't get any leads. I didn't get any business out of it.
Yeah.
And my response to those people typically is, well, how many leads did you give? I think that's what happens. Too many people go in a networking event thinking what they're going to take away. My rule is you can't ask for referrals unless you give them. And I don't, and I give 2 referrals, and I know you match people up all the time. You're a
Yes.
matchmaker.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people have to, if you're trying to develop professional relationships,
Mhm.
instead of thinking what you're taking from somebody, how many people are you matching up? How many people are you saying, boy, you ought to talk to this person? And what happens is if I refer you to somebody, now you're gonna feel like, well, maybe I should refer Wayne to somebody.
Mhm.
Instead of thinking, and I think that's what happens, people that don't get into networking, is they're too much into it for themselves. Instead of thinking, well, I'm going to this after hours thing tonight, and I'm gonna see if I can match up people with clients that I already have. Is that, and do
Oh,
you see that happen a lot with your people, or you see them, most of these networking events where people are just trying to take?
yeah, that's spot on. That's very accurate. So I would say there's, in my mind, I'm not the expert on this, but I would say in my mind, there's kind of 2 categories at least of folks, and I'd say the givers and the takers, and you can spot them pretty quickly. So I would say yes, definitely. If you're trying to connect, refer those people to other people. I try to do that all the time. In fact, I have even folks who maybe they're not a member anymore, they're a past member. So one of them, they are a functional medicine doctor, and they're very knowledgeable in what they do. They were a family medical doctor. So I still connect her with people when it makes sense. She's not a paying member anymore, but sometimes it makes sense that people want to know about her, get connected to her, or that type of thing. So yes, definitely, if you're doing the referrals, you're trying to connect them, you're trying to help them out, and it's not just me, what I can get out of it, and people appreciate that, and it generally comes around,
Mhm.
yeah.
In all the years that I've been a sales trainer, there's one statement that people have never argued with me about, and that is people buy from people that they like and they trust,
Right,
and people like and trust people like themselves.
yes,
Everybody agrees with that. So when we talk about building professional relationships, it's not about just trying to take a one time building with somebody and trying to get their a business or referral. It's building a long-term relationship with people. So I don't know if you have any ideas about how long does it really take for, and maybe not you, but the average person to build trust with somebody, and any thoughts you have is how to build trust with somebody you meet at a networking event.
uh, well, I think it's not really an instant, but a lot of times too, what do they say? Body or communication, 90% of it is body language,
Mhm.
tone, speech, mannerisms, facial gestures. So you kind of get an idea pretty quickly if someone is interested in what you're sharing or not. I have to honestly say, I met one person, very nice person, but I could tell pretty early on they weren't all that interested in what I was sharing or talking about. And that's fine. I just moved on and talked to someone else. That wasn't you, Joe. And so,
Nobody on the call today, yeah.
but it does take a while. I've had some folks who I've known for years, and they have been to maybe attended my lunch and learns, which are free and open to anyone to attend. And then one day they just kind of say to me, like, oh, I think I want to be a member and join. And I'm like, all right, that's great.
Well, before I forget, let's do that plug. For if anybody's listening or watching
Yeah.
this later on YouTube, they are interested in your group, how do they get in touch with you?
There's a couple different ways. You can go to my website, which is northerncoloradocommunity.com. And you can subscribe to my newsletter, and then that has upcoming events. And then another way is you can go on Facebook and message me. I don't really enjoy getting the messages from Facebook. I think subscribing or contacting me through my website. And then Facebook, I do have a Facebook page which has upcoming events. But yeah, so talking about building the connections and the relationships is keeping in touch. I'm not going to be emailing or calling you every day, but periodic, maybe once a month or quarterly or a couple times a year, just contact the person. And two, the other thing is I believe in gut feelings about things. Sometimes if someone's name kind of comes to your mind, and maybe I haven't talked to them for a while, I might just call them or text them or email and say, I was just thinking of you. Hope you're doing well. Hope your business is going well. And there's also the newsletter, there's emails, there's also another marketing tool that I use called Lolo, LOLO. And it's basically where you give a little gift to someone each month. They can get a cup of coffee or they can get maybe a plant or something, but it's an inexpensive marketing tool and it keeps you top of mind as well.
That's a low.
Yeah, LOLO.
Well, that
So,
sounds good. That's a great tip, because I think what happens is we talk about in this podcast building professional relationships, and people go to a networking event. So I want to move it over to what's the follow-up then? Yes, let's have a cup of coffee. And how often do you send an email to that person? Do you connect with them on Facebook, LinkedIn? I mean, all of us got, I mean, I've had 37 emails since we've been talking.
oh, wow.
How do you suggest we continue a systematic approach to building a relationship with somebody that you met or that you want to have a relationship with? What's your thoughts as far as how to connect with that person on an ongoing basis?
Right. So one of the things I ask folks is if it's okay to add them to my newsletter, which only goes out twice a month. I'm not going to spam people and send you an email every day. And if that's fine, that's really a good way to keep in contact. And then I do have just a direct email I send out to people before events, and those go out a little bit more often. But a lot of it is, I think I look at where people are bouncing the ball back. So what I mean by that is I talk to you, Wayne, and we have a good coffee meeting, and you say, yeah, you can add Wayne to my newsletter. Okay, great. And then maybe Wayne comes to an event. So then I'm going, okay, well, he has an interest in coming to events, or he might say, hey, Ann, we had a great coffee meeting afterwards. So you kind of look at if people are bouncing the ball back too. If you send them 2-3 emails inviting them to events, they don't come to anything, they don't respond, then I kind of take that as a cue or a hint that they're maybe not that interested, or maybe they're too busy, or it's not for them, and that's fine. So you just kind of have to kind of read the room, so to speak.
Those of you that have seen my training before, one of the things I say, it's a no for now, but not forever. And that's the way people don't like their no. I was doing a training this morning. The average child is told no 400 times a day. People go, what? Yeah, but it's always, because it's usually no, 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 no. So if you think about it, parents are telling kids no. So we are conditioned not to like no. But a no is okay.
Right.
Instead of thinking with somebody you're trying to contact somebody, they don't return your emails, whatever, just think about it this way. It's a no for now, but not forever. It could be, hey, something's going on in their life. There's some medical issues. The family's this. And just don't assume that they're, give it a cooling off period, like you say. Maybe 6 months later, contact them again. Hey, has anything changed? Would you want to develop any more relationships? What are you finding as far as snail mail? Are you doing like send out cards or any of those kind of programs where you're actually doing mail to people? What do you think about that?
I do think snail mail is great because one of the things is it's not done very often. Think of your own when you get mail. How often do you get a greeting card from someone? Not very often. Most of the time it's bills and just junk mail. one of the things I do is when a new member joins, I mail them or give them a handmade card. I enjoy.
And that's why I brought it, because I really enjoyed getting that from you when I joined your group, yes.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. So I do that. And then, like I said, if there's different things going on, like someone's not feeling well, or they win an award, I will do that occasionally as well. But
Okay.
yeah, I do believe that if you use it in a timely manner, that it really, people do appreciate it.
Couple years ago when that multi-level marketing send out cards was getting really popular, it was great at the beginning. But then I started getting 4 or 5 of them a week, and I could tell they were really just computer generated. There really was the handwritten note. So what I've gone to many times is if I see something that I think of as of interest to you, I'll just put a post-it note on, hey, Ann, I thought this was of interest to you, and I'll put that in the mail. Because and it didn't take me that long. But I think that's when we're talking about building professional relationships, it needs to be about what I can do for you instead of what you can do for me. And if I just send you a little note, hey, I thought this white paper was of interest to you, and put it in the mail.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little bit more sincere,
Yes.
because right now I'm finding that even on the emails that I do, it's less than an 8% open rate. So I don't think some of the people are actually seeing it. So then my question is, what do you put in like the and the subject line in an email to get people to open your email? Is there any tips that you have in that regard, building relationships that way?
Well, my newsletter gets about a 30% open rate.
That's
So
great. What are you doing with that money? That's pretty good.
People who know me, the
Okay.
members or people who've had associations and know me anyway. The basically a lot of my emails just, okay, we have a business after hours, we have a lunch and learn. So people are interested, and I try to say like it's tomorrow or it's a week away or something, so people have an idea of the date, because it may be a day they can't attend an event. So they're probably not going to even open the email then if they see in the subject line. The other thing that I do, that which you may borrow the idea, is that if I send a couple emails, maybe I met someone at networking, and then I sent them a couple of emails like, let's get together and chat, and they're not responding at all. Then the third email will put in the subject line, question. And what I say, all I say is question. And then I'll say, Wayne, I've sent you a couple emails and I'm sure you're busy. Just want to make sure that it's not going into your spam and that you're receiving the emails. 99% of the time, someone will respond to
Wow,
that.
that's a great tip.
Either they'll just say, oh, I'm sorry, I was busy, or yeah, I'm getting your emails, and it's just lots going on. So that is just because people get curious. When you put question, they're like, well, what is Ann asking, or what does she have a question about?
And so you
Just-
open it.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, they're going to open it. I've done that with phone calls. Like I might be calling someone, and maybe I'm trying to set an appointment with them. My phone call might be, hi, Wayne, this is Ann. And I'm probably not going to go into a lot of details. I'm just like, I just have a question for you, and give me a quick call when you have a time, and here's my phone number. Very simple. 99% of the time, people will call me back.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
a good idea. I like that tip. That's good. And I think most of the people that are probably watching or listening today are thinking, how do I get more referrals? And we've talked about building those relationships with networking events. What do you think about some of the programs, the platforms like Alignable, or are there any that you specifically use to give or get referrals?
I have been on Alignable. For me personally, I actually did not see me getting any business out of it. And what I mean by business is people attending events. I'd post events on there. I was connecting with people on Alignable. I didn't ever do the paid. I did the free part of Alignable. So maybe I didn't give it a fair shot. I'm not active on it. There is LinkedIn as well. I have to say, I'm not really real active on LinkedIn. My profile is up to date. I do post things on there every so often, like when I won the best networking, #1 networking for NOCO style best of 2024. I did post an event, or made a post on LinkedIn
Right.
about that.
To get people to vote.
Well, it was mainly just like an announcement. It
Gotcha.
wasn't for voting. It was just a quick announcement in case people wanted to know. I would just say probably the best ones is the in-person or the phone call or meeting is probably, for me, the most effective.
Okay. Do you use, well, I do a train on LinkedIn. There's a huge cottage industry around LinkedIn of people doing it. So
Yes. Right.
everybody does it.
Yeah,
But
right.
I trained the LinkedIn staff people about 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, great.
So LinkedIn, as the things that they told me, LinkedIn originally evolved as almost like a resume to help you find a job, and it has evolved into more of a networking group.
Yes.
LinkedIn is to be found or to find somebody else. For me to look at your profile and see, oh, you're connected to so-and-so, boy, can you give me a personal introduction? And I think that's where people have gotten away from LinkedIn. They're not using LinkedIn to ask, they're just trying to go and find somebody and then sending them in a message through LinkedIn. Or, and a lot of people ask me, should I pay for the Sales Navigator, the expensive version? And if you're going to use it. Otherwise, if you don't really spend and dedicate 1 or 2 hours a week to LinkedIn, you won't build professional relationships through it. But if you have a systematic approach, it's worthwhile. I don't know if you know of other than Alignable, LinkedIn, Business, Facebook. What do you think about people building relationships through social media? Any that they just don't do, stay away from, or what mistakes, I guess, are people making in using social media to try and build professional relationships?
Right. Well, and that is also a really good point. So I would say do's and don'ts. One of my do's about using social media, whether your personal page or your business, is do not post political or religious or controversial topics. Keep it positive, upbeat. People who follow me on my Facebook page, there's a lot of pictures of my dog Bob and my husband, or artwork, or places I'm visiting. So you won't ever see a negative post from me on my Facebook. And so that's one of the things that I say is really important.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Because I think even if you have a business page, connect to your personal, people go back to your personal page.
They do. They
Yeah.
want to find
Yeah.
out about you. The other thing that I really see that I personally hate is someone will friend me on Facebook and then immediately direct message me selling them, trying to sell me a product or a service. And they haven't really even got to know me. Now, there's some people who already know me in person, and then if they message me, that's different. But if it's basically a complete stranger almost, and I've accepted their friend request, and then they're wanting to sell me something immediately, that I won't say I'm going to unfriend them, but I find that very, yeah, for not very professional at all to do that. Yeah.
Well, they're in it for themselves.
Right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can tell right away. There's 2 types of people that are listening to us today, or later on. One, somebody who's a new entrepreneur just starting their business,
Okay.
trying to, because there's so many people that start a business because they have a passion for whatever it is, and they forget that really what they're starting is a sales business. Because without appointments, you're out of business.
Right.
And so they forget that part. They might know the product not real well. So what advice do you have for one, somebody who's starting a business on how to build professional relationships? And second, group of people are watching this are seasoned professionals that are trying to get more business. They're tasked with their bosses saying, hey, your quota is now gone up. We need you to go make some more sales. So they're trying to figure out, how do I build more relationships? And then new people, how do they start? So you can pick which one of that questions, which half you want to address first.
Well, it's actually a lot of things that we've touched on, which is do the 90-10 rule is, I mean, even though I'm talking a lot in this, but is listen 90% of the time, talk 10% of the time. And then the snail mail, keeping in touch, being the person giving a referral, being the giver personality. And so whether you do it online or phone calls, but it really, those points are important. And then for the seasoned entrepreneur, it really doesn't change that much. I don't think most people are going to drastically change from what they were doing in the beginning to after they're, a successful business person. Hopefully not. But yeah.
Well, I think it's
really,
getting harder and harder, though, to build professional relationships, because there are so many people using social media or whatever, trying to sell you something.
right.
So people are a little bit more standoffish. People aren't they're immediately deleting an email that years ago they might have opened.
Right.
So I'm just wondering what it is that we need to do. I have a saying, different is better than better. instead of being better, what's different that people should be trying as far as building professional relationships? What they should be doing different than everybody else? What's the thing that, I guess what's the magic dust? What's the new thing I should do to build a relationship that everybody else isn't already doing?
Well, one of the things that I do observe is being a person of your word. And this is going to be a little bit the cynical side of me coming out, but I would say like 90% of the people do not do what they say they're going to. So let's say I meet you at a meeting and I'm like, hey, Wayne, I'm going to email you and let's meet for coffee. And then it's 5 weeks later and I finally decide to email you to get together for a coffee. Well, you've forgotten who I am. You've met 5 million other people during that time. So really, I'd say doing what you say you're going to. So if someone asks me about something or they want me to do something or connect me to someone, I would do it. And usually within 48 hours or less. Sometimes it doesn't always happen because life happens. And so really following through on what you say you're going to really does make you stand out, because there's a lot of people who kind of, blow smoke up, and give you a lot of fluff and a lot of promises, but they don't really follow through on what they say they're going to. And then, of course, like what we were talking about, the referrals. If you're referring people by introducing them to someone else at an event or an email later on, or you do a shout out for them on social media, on Facebook or different places, and like, this person is great, go get your house painted from them, or this is a great glass shop. That's free and people love it because that really is not done very often. And I would say probably almost 90% of the people I talk to are referred to me. I'm at the point in my business that people have heard about me enough and they know how I run things that I do get a lot of referrals.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you can't talk to somebody in Fort Collins without them knowing you, so that's a good thing. Couple more questions before we wrap this up,
sure.
because I'm really curious about this. Are you finding certain generations do professional relationship different? Are you finding that, uh, my generation, the boomers, we do things differently than my son would at 20 some? Or is everybody pretty much doing the same thing?
That's really a great question. I haven't honestly thought about it, but I'm just going to say off the top of my head. First of all, like when I look at the demographics of my members, most of them are 30 or 40 years old or older. So that probably says to me that the people who want to do in-person networking is a little bit of an older age group. I'm a baby boomer too. And then, yeah, and when I look at folks that are networking, like even the networking event I was at last night, there was probably not that many people under the age of 30 at that event. So they may be more doing the online, the social media, the Instagram, the TikTok to get their clientele and get the word out there about what they're doing. And of course, obviously, since I run a networking group, I'm always going to think the in-person, but I do think you're right that there are different ways that people get the visibility and the word out there about what they're doing.
And
Yeah.
so, and I agree with you. I think I'm finding that the younger group isn't going out face-to-face networking.
Right.
What are they doing then?
The TikTok,
Yeah, maybe that, I don't have TikTok and
the YouTube, the Instagram, the
so those are effective for them, and we should be adopting it, and they should be adopting more of what we do. We should be, any thought?
Well, I have to say, I do watch a lot of YouTube. That's kind of one of those, I don't know, I'm not going to say it's a waste of time. I enjoy it. But I do look at some of the big YouTubers. They're pretty young and they have like several million followers.
Mhm.
And I guess when you get to a certain point, you get paid for having so many followers and such. So they apparently, and some of them are selling products or just them and their adventures and what they're doing. So it apparently is working for them. So it's
So we talked a lot about business, your business. Do you mind if I move into some personal questions?
sure, go
Okay.
for it.
You're busy. I know you're busy. We run into each other at different events and you have a lot of things going on. What do you do when you're not working for fun?
Well, Janelle, who's listening, would know. I love to do art and creative things. I make greeting cards, do junk journals, mixed media. So I do that. Also, Mike, my husband, and I love to listen to live music. We have our dogs, enjoy that. And then getting together with friends and socializing.
But you're always socialized. You got so much of your work is social. Can you, when you, if somebody says, hey, let's go out to dinner, do you go, oh God, I've already been out with so many people? Or do you still enjoy going out to dinner with friends and
I
you
do.
separate the two?
I'm an extreme extrovert, but
And your husband's the opposite?
yeah, my husband's an introvert, but but it is different when you socialize in a networking group versus like just with a friend, because when I'm socializing in a networking group, I feel like I really need to be on and aware, like making sure there isn't any wallflowers or any people who aren't having, who, they don't have anyone to talk to. So I try to introduce them to someone else in the group. So it's a little different setting of where I have a little bit more responsibility, making sure that people are connecting, talking to folks, feeling included. Whereas I'm visiting with a friend, and that's just casual and it's more relaxed. Yeah.
Got it. When we're talking about building relationships, and a lot of people take that into also just getting in a referral. If I said to you right now, I said, hey, Ann, can you give me some referrals?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the problem with that is that's putting your neck on the line because you don't know if I'm going to screw up that relationship. I'm going to say something. So when you ask somebody for a referral, remember they're thinking, hey, what's in it for me? The only risk, because I might give you the name and that person. So any thought you have as far as when you ask somebody for referrals, how one should go about it? If you say, hey, Ann, I know you know so-and-so, can you refer me to that person? Any tips you have? And that's my last question, so you know.
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, when I am generally the majority of the referrals that I'm giving, connecting folks to other people for a referral is folks who are members. So usually I know them fairly well. We've sat down and done a new member meeting. I maybe have seen them at events for a while. So generally I feel like I have a pretty good feel, and that pretty positive that it's going to be a good referral, referring that person to another professional. The other thing too is when I do connect someone to another business person, it's also someone that I know pretty well, that I'm not going to connect you to someone I met yesterday and talk to them for 2 minutes because I don't really know them at all. So the strength of those referrals are going to be pretty strong because they're people that I maybe have known 5 years, 20 years. They've been to my house for barbecue. I've been to their house for a party. So it's people I know quite well that I'm going to go, this is a good referral for Wayne. And I'm trusting that it's a good referral on for Wayne as well. I mean, that connection is positive both ways. And I do say to folks when I meet with them in the new member meeting, I say, these referrals are like gold. So please treat it that way. And also, if you don't have time to get back to someone right away, then just say, I'm busy for a couple weeks, sorry, we'll get back later. So that way they know that you've received the email and you do want to connect to them, but
Okay.
you're slammed for work right now. So those are ways that were, I try to make them really a positive experience for both people.
I told you it'd be 40 minutes. It is now 39 minutes.
Cool.
So let me do this. Let me open it up to Janelle and Joe, see if they have any questions or comments that you make. So go ahead and unmute yourself. And Janelle, I see you unmuted yourself first. So why don't you go ahead and have a question?
Sure. Just one comment I had about referrals is whenever I get a referral from somebody, I make sure that they stay in the loop as to what I'm doing with that referral. Like I had just gotten one and I emailed him and said, hey, I contacted, so-and-so and have a meeting set up. And so I'll let you know, what happens. And then, the one that I just have, unfortunately, it didn't work out, but I still let him know. I'm like, hey, this one, they decided to go a different way. But I really, really appreciate the referral, and the opportunity. So, I just keep the person in the loop that's giving the referral to me so that they know that I'm actually following up with these people. So I think that's a good thing.
Okay. One of the tips I give people is this, that if Ann gave me a referral, one of the things I will do is I'll send them an email or note that says, hey, Ann suggested you and I get together. I'm not sure what Ann thinks we can do for each other, but I'll let Ann know that the ball's in your court.
Mhm.
And you'd be surprised, I almost get 100% response
Mhm.
that way. Because I've used, you gave me a referral, but now I've told, hey, I've contacted Janelle, the ball's in her court now. Janelle feels more like, okay, I better call Wayne because I don't want to run into Ann at a networking event. And then she says, did you talk to Wayne? So that's one thing.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, Joe, how about you? Anything you have for comment?
Well, it was great to see both of you again there. So and together, that's kind of fun. I'm old and old school, and I've done all kinds of sales in the past, and from yellow pages to whatever, and never want to make another cold call as long as I live. My business, most of it is past accounts that I've worked with, and then classes that are set up from a national corporation, HSI. But I'm up for generating some business in between those in the northern Colorado area. My problem really is I'm not into really pushing people or trying to put them on the spot, or as you would call it, asking for the business.
Mhm.
So, and also my type of business, teaching CPR and first aid and active violence classes, they're kind of what I would say fall in the category of funeral services and that type of thing. Most people don't want to talk about it until it's too late, when something happens. So, I'm giving the networking stuff here a shot for a year or so, and see what kind of businesses and contacts we can generate that way. So again, thanks for all the input and whatever. And if you have any suggestions on how would be a good way to approach people, for something which basically I tell all my classes, everything I teach, we hope you never have to use. But when the situation occurs, then they come back and go, I really wish I had known something then. So how do you kind of get people off of the, well, business to business back and forth versus this is a skill and a program that we really need to have for our staff or for our business and our folks.
Yeah, so you're asking Joe about how you get people to get off the dime basically and make a decision to whether they're going to hire you, yes or no, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people teaching it, but so Red Cross and American Heart and whatever, but I'm fairly proud of the classes and programs and the class evaluations that we get. So we approach it from a little different area that most people really will enjoy and appreciate in the long run.
Yeah, and so that's a great question, and it's probably one of the more challenging ones for people who are selling a service or product. So one of the things is that kind of how I said to you, Joe, which is kind of like, do something. I mean, I'm not going to be that blunt, but I would probably just say, hey, Joe, it sounds like maybe you're interested and that's great. And I'm not a person that wants to bug people or hound people. So if it's something you want to do at this time, let me know and we can, do an agreement or schedule a workshop. If it's something that isn't going to work for you right now, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Just let me know because I don't want to waste your time or mine. And we'll just maybe touch base later if that sounds good. So then you're getting a yes or a no, in a nice way. But you really don't want to waste your time, keep following up and talking to people if they really don't want to do it or really the timing isn't great. But if they do want to do it, then they're like,
Well,
maybe we can look at the calendar and schedule something.
so the sales trainer's coming out on this one. Couldn't wait to try and answer this question, so I apologize for that. Joe, remember, and those of everybody listening, we are motivated to action by the intensity of our pain. Everything we do in life is really for two reasons, either to gain pleasure or to avoid pain. And it's broken down into four categories: solve pain today, solve pain in the future, gain pleasure today, gain pleasure in the future. So Joe, I would think that in your situation, a technique that I teach is let's pretend. I mean, when you take people to the future, and you say, hey, let's pretend somebody at your office has a heart attack. Do you have the capability and do you provide the training to be able to help that person at that time? Instead of calling somebody, oh, you don't want to be in a situation where somebody dies because, you know, when you tell somebody they have pain, they fight you. But when you ask somebody about, hey, let's pretend this happens in the future, how would you deal with it? Would this be something? So again, you're not causing the pain's there. And I think that's why people don't get into sales. They think the sales guy causes pain. Oh, don't drive off the lot with those ball tires. You'll get in a car accident. And when you tell people they have pain, they don't want to believe it.
Yeah, right.
But when you ask them, hey, let's pretend in the future this and happened. Tell me, are you prepared to be able to deal with it? And how would you deal with it? It creates that pain in their mind. People will never buy your product or service until they discover they need it. If you tell them they need your product, they fight you. But we don't argue with our own data. I'll argue with yours, but I won't argue with mine. So I think that's building relationships with people. Take them to the future. Hey, let's pretend you and I did have a relationship. Describe for me a year from now what you think has happened because you and I decided to engage as partners today. And then get answered. So my last question, and I'll wrap it up. I lied.
That's a great point.
I lied about my last question.
Please.
What's a good referral for you? What can we do for you?
Yeah, and that is also a really great question, Wayne, because I do have people ask me that quite often. I would say what I'm looking for in the group or who are great members to join the group is a couple of things. Is first of all, they're a person of character that if I am connecting them or they're part of the group, that there's someone I can trust and they're knowledgeable, they know what they're doing. And then the second thing is really someone who's been in their business like 5 years or longer. Because if I'm doing all these email introductions and you've been in your business 2 years and then 3 years down the road, you're not doing your business anymore, that kind of breaks those connections that have been made.
Oh.
So I really do look for folks who are more of an established business and really also larger companies,
Okay.
maybe 10 employees or more. It doesn't have to be. The solo entrepreneurs and partners are great businesses too. But what I noticed is when I had, so I brought on 19 new members in December of 2024, and probably at least half of them were companies that had 50 or more employees. So kind of a couple reasons is that usually then if you're looking for advertising, sponsorship, different things like that, I have different levels of membership. Folks who are bigger companies generally have more advertising dollars to do that if they want. But the main thing, really, the bottom line for me is that someone who is a person of integrity and they know what they're doing and they've been in their business successfully for several years. So
Fantastic. So we covered it earlier, but we'll conclude with this. So if people want to be a member of your group or want to refer, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely through my website, northerncoloradocommunity.com. And then the Facebook page has events that you may RSVP or attend an event for free as 1 or 2 times as a guest. So those are probably the best ways. Yeah.
All right. And thank you very much for joining us. I hope people that are watching get something out of it. I know I did. I always learn something. There's not a training I don't go to that I don't get something out of it. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I
Thank you,
enjoyed
everybody.
it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Janelle. Thanks, Joe.